4:30. I guess the first thing we'll do on the agenda is to go through and approve the minutes. It appears that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of minutes.
Yes, you've got
Start that process.
4 sets of minutes in front of you, like we talked about. We're transitioning into a new software for the agenda for planning and zoning. With that, had a few kinks to get through on the minutes coming out of that system. You'll notice the minutes are a true action minutes, so it's just real short line items. So-and-so spoke, so-and-so presented. The reason for that is this system ties directly to the video online. So that you can click on the actual subject item. It'll go straight to that exact time slot of that part of the meeting, and you can watch it from there. This is a system council's been using for the last few years. And it's been very successful for council as well. The record now becomes the video now becomes the permanent record, so that staff's not trying to summarize or interpret some of what was said when we're kind of concatenating some of the discussion. But the minutes will be very short action minutes. And again, online it links directly to that video. So got any questions? Be happy to go through those.
Does anybody have any questions or any additional corrections on the minutes?
So there were some corrections emailed over to our staff this week. What was posted online has now been amended and is in your amended packet today. Those corrections have been made.
From who? Corrections from who?
Steve, who?
David had a few corrections,
Oh, okay.
and so, yeah,
Us.
the other David, yeah.
You wouldn't accept?
No.
No, corrections from the public? No. Corrections from the commissioners,
Just
yes.
clarity. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right, if there are no further corrections, then I would entertain a motion to approve 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D minutes as presented.
So move.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Raise your hand. Minutes are approved. So before we go into the preliminary plat, just want to make a note here that we're losing one of our P&Z commissioners who is abandoning us, going on to bigger and better things. Shane is going to Austin, and so this is his last meeting.
Huh.
So I told Steve to make sure he gets his last paycheck before he leaves,
Of course.
and tell him who to see. Well, good luck.
Paycheck this whole time?
We're gonna miss you.
So
We appreciate your service, and we wish you good luck.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here, honestly. It's been great to engage with the community and kind of work with y'all and be a part of that.
We appreciate it.
what have you found your replacement?
I think someone on city council is usually in charge of that.
Well, you had to get one little bit of grief before it. Come on. Thank you very much.
All righty, so we're gonna go on to item number 2A, consideration and final action. Preliminary plat, lot 1, block 1 for Whataburger.
Yes, the WB Kerrville Edition is a 1.43 acre tract of land situated in the Patrick Fleming Survey, abstract number 666 in the city of Kerrville, Kerr County, Texas. Being a part of a 1.59 acre tract of land described in the special warranty deed to WB Real Estate LLC as recorded in instrument number 19-05451, the official public records of Kerr County, generally located at 2141 Sidney Baker Street. This is a preliminary plat. This property has not been platted before with some of the changes between this property and adjacent property and some of the access. It has had some minor changes to the original deed. You notice we're looking at 1.43 acres out of 1.59. So that will require them to finish the platting process prior to getting a building permit. They're in the process of going through their permitting design right now and working with public utilities or public works and city engineer for the utility design. So other than the plat, this project will not come to the planning commission because it is zoned accordingly, and they'll be moving right along soon. Staff recommends the plat for approval with no conditions.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
Hey Drew, is that little nub where the driveway inlet or the curb inlet is that you have highlighted in red, is that a part of this property?
That is part of the property.
And they have an
So-
access easement agreement, I guess, with
Yes.
Harbor Freight? Okay.
Yeah, there are access easements, I believe, all the way back to the back edge of the new driveway that went in with Harbor Freight, benefiting both properties.
Okay.
I say access easement, it is a layer of easements. But, if you look at the plat, I pull the plat up, there is a list of easements down there on the bottom that describe the access easements, utility easements, all running down that driveway. At one point, the Harbor Freight and the lot that surrounds the Whataburger here, this lot here that's vacant, is part of a larger development under the name Gateway, which is 60 or 70 acres that we looked at, on the other side of the creek. So if they ever decide to develop that, this would be primary access for that adjacent development as well.
Yeah. Primary access or only access?
This property here, as it expands further off to the east, actually does have an access point over on Alpine Drive, back behind these townhomes.
Right.
So it does have a secondary means of egress, obviously, once they develop and get to that.
Can you put the topo back up, please? Oof.
A little bit of fall before you get to the creek.
That's not, okay. Okay.
Anything else?
No, sir. Not by
All
me.
right, if we're, have no other questions, and we can entertain a motion to approve the preliminary plat as presented.
Second.
Motion, a second, all in favor, raise your hand. All right, so we're gonna move on to item 3A, and this requires public hearing. You wanna get us started on this, Drew, and then we'll open the public hearing.
Conditional use permit for short-term rentals on 820 Robinson. Resolution to allow a conditional use permit for short-term rentals on lot 8, Block C, Cage Edition, more commonly known as 820 Robinson. And here's our, not the overall city map, but the map of the area. Again, the blue are the two proposed today. This one is up here on Robinson. And of course, the next item is this one down here on Westminster. The red flags are ones that have been approved by conditional use permit. The green ones are ones that were grandfathered prior to 2019 with the new zoning code. There are two on Tivy Street that we've approved recently. One directly across the street at 821 Robinson, and this one requested today.
Yeah,
And this is for actual multiple units. It's a grandfathered property that has the main house up front, a guest house on the back west corner. That north corner is a small duplex. So there's a total of 4 units,
All one lot,
all one lot.
3 buildings on one lot.
That's correct.
Are you considering that little shed on the main house, the fourth?
No, the duplex has
No,
2.
sorry.
Okay, I see. Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
One house here.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
This one's a 3-2. Guest house is a 3-2. And this is actually a duplex with
I
two
gotcha.
two-bedroom units.
So I guess what we'll do is we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on this at 4:39, see if there's anyone signed up to speak on this. If not, we'll close the public hearing, and any questions or anything.
Applicant is here if you wanted to say a few words.
Okay,
Hi, I'm Tom Kent. We actually are the owners of 821 as well. We were here in front of you all 8 months ago, rehabbing that property. Just, that one little white thing there, that's a tent that's gone. The previous owners had, that's not an actual structure of any kind. There's also a pool there we're gonna remove. Let's see. So our goal, like we mentioned last time, is we just kind of love the town. We spend more of our time here. Our plans are gonna probably spend about half the next year just living here. We're gonna be rehabbing this property, but also kind of inhabiting probably the guest house, that top left one. And then we also, since we've been open, I got several, I guess, letters from guests at 821 discussing how much they love the neighborhood, the property, the ambiance. There's like herds of deer that wander through, as well as it's about 7/10 of a mile from downtown.
Very
We send a
close
lot
to
of people down. They
downtown,
get
yeah.
like packs for coffee in the morning. What is it, 10, 11 cafe for dinner, several other places. Not really walking distance, but most of the downtown stuff is. But I'm glad to answer questions if anyone has any other thoughts or things they want clarity on. We did a lot of work and really kind of made 821 a bit of a luxury place. We have a lot of the same vision to really make this a beautiful home and a beautiful property.
So one of my questions would be, you've got the parkings outlined in here, how you're going to create parking in those areas, correct?
Right, it's all gravel now.
All gravel.
Yes. Yes,
So
sir.
are you going to upgrade it, or that's just gonna be what it is?
I was planning on doing, well, more solid gravel because it's kind of thin at this point. It's
Okay.
been around for a long time. I had not planned to pave it yet. I might also, I'm gonna probably divide it in the middle and have kind of a common area in the middle.
Right.
I will not be renting this as one large unit though. It'll be 4 separate units. I'm not looking at all for big parties. That is not our model, target audience.
Okay. Anybody else? Any questions?
But it could be.
Yeah, but they'd have to work on it. They have to guess, and that's not the way they kind of work the model on Airbnb. It's not linked on Airbnb when they rent. It's just here's a 2-1 in Kirk.
And your marketing efforts or outreach to try to get customers, you don't have it presented as.
We will not be presenting it as a big unit to sell as a party place. Absolutely not. The overhead and don't want to deal with the noise. Our model audience right now in 821 is like young professional couples. We've had multiple times where like 2 couples came to town. People came with their kids going to camp. We had another group that were hunters. Actually, they were fishermen, but they came to town to pick up. I guess they went to an exotic ranch in the area and they had something stuffed in the area. But yeah, everything we've had has been small, quiet groups or other people coming up to the wineries.
Haven't had any issues from the neighbors?
No, and I actually met this family to give them my card to say if any noise at all, please let me know because I want to know.
Yeah.
And I want to shut that down. We have a camera on the front door of the 821. We'll do the same thing there just so we know who's entering the property. The way I've set up my internet is I can tell who joins. So I know, and especially if it's like on kids, I know if there's 5, 6, 7, 8 people showing up and joining internet, I'll know right away.
Okay.
And that has not happened at all.
Excellent. Well, if there's not any other questions, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Anybody else? Close the public hearing at 4:43. Comments? No concerns?
How many other CUPs have we had come through where there's multiple units on a singular property?
I'm
This
not-
is the only one, well, I say that.
It's the only one I've seen, I think.
We've had one other on Riverside Drive that had actually a conditional use permit to build an accessory dwelling unit and a conditional use permit so that both units could be used as short-term rental, the front and the back house. Those have yet to be constructed at this point in time, so I don't have any history on it.
So how does the city and the CUP that would be attached to this property as a whole view 3 separately
Actually,
rented?
Yeah,
Four.
4 units.
4 separately occupied units.
It really wouldn't be any different than 4 separate units. These are just this is just a grandfathered property. So there are 4 units on one large property. And you can kind of see on this one, and as far as the scale for the neighborhood,
Yeah, it's a very large lot for.
this lot is easily 3 or 4 of the adjacent lots, as are the 2 adjacent properties immediately to the northeast. So as far as the density, obviously, it's not really any more dense than 3 in a row or 4 in a row would have been.
Okay.
So treating them as 4 separate units. Just kind of run through the parking one more time. As you recall, 1 parking space per bedroom plus 1 for the off-site manager. I guess that would be the only difference. We're only requiring 1 additional space for off-site manager. But the 3 separate units, or 4 separate units, 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, for a total of 10 off-street parking plus the 1 for 11 total. And they've shown they're providing 12 spaces between those 2 driveways. And as Mr. Kent mentioned, they're gonna continue improving those from the existing gravel drive to be a little cleaner and get some of the weeds and grass out of the gravel and reestablish that gravel parking.
As part of the conditions, typically we were seeing 10 maximum occupants per unit. Would this be parking restricted versus 40 total occupants on the property, or?
We can
What's-
certainly look at a lower number. The reason we've stuck with 10 is that standard condition is that lines up with the building code.
Mhm.
A short-term unit with more than 10 actually becomes a hotel and falls into a different category. So in theory, yes, it could be 10 per unit. Obviously, 10 in a 2-bedroom
Oh, yeah.
would be difficult, but yeah, I think the parking would be the biggest market limitation at that point. And
The assumption I'm taking is that if this property gets a CUP, then changes hands and they switch that business model and they do rent all units as a singular kind of large property, then
right.
that becomes a consideration.
Have you guys talked about maximum occupancy per unit yet?
Not more than beds, so we were talking about the 2 per bed.
Okay.
Yeah, because again, our target audience is couples,
Mhm.
like young, whatever, age couples. So, and that worked really well at the other property. The other property is 2 beds, 4 is our max in that property. We once allowed 5 and charged extra for that one person who had brought their own air mattress. But otherwise, we're keeping it 2 per bedroom.
So you're looking at 20 to 24 for the total property,
Right. Although, to be honest, those 2 duplexes are not roomy enough to really fit.
4 people in.
Yeah, really tight.
Right. Would you
So
like
that
to
might
see a
be,
condition that's a maximum for the 4?
that would be my recommendation, but that might be overkill, so.
You know,
And
no-
again, the conditional use permit, just kind of reiterating, we hadn't talked about it in a while. The first test is really, is this use appropriate in this area? If the answer is yes, we approve it. If the answer is no, then we come up with conditions that would make it appropriate. And that's where we've worked up this kind of standard list of conditions. If we need to add to those, by all means, based on the exact scenario for this property, we can add conditions to that as needed.
Well, I think what Shane said, I mean, you know, we talked about this at the last P and Z meeting. You know, theoretically, you can put 10 people. We don't have an occupational cap, we just have a parking requirement. So each one of these units could have 10 people in it. And this is a pretty special case where you've got 4
Right.
short-term rentals on one piece of property. It would not be out of the realm of, reason to approve this with a cap of occupancy.
Right. Based on Mr. Kent's numbers, 20 to 24 would give that flexibility for the
Right.
total property.
Right,
And it's still, I would still say 10 per unit, obviously, just to align with building code. But maybe we set that maximum at 24, 25 for the entire property.
at any one time.
And through that review process, we'll of course look at their listings and work with them to make sure they've got that as part of their listing. And beyond that, it just becomes an enforcement. You know, if they're-
Right,
Not to their discredit, but if they had a tenant come in and had that many people, if we
right.
get a complaint, we'd investigate from there and just go that route on the enforcement side, but not, obviously that's based on the customers, not the owners.
I mean, I would suggest a number of 28 to give them a little bit more leniency
Okay.
in their total number, but it's drastically lower than 40.
Right.
So still want to give them the ability to
Is
operate
that
this
an issue for
property.
you?
Not at all. I will probably have it set for 20.
Okay.
All in, right, between the
Yes, sir.
6, 6, 4, and 4. And then if there's some special event that does. give us-
Right. So you will market this, or I guess Airbnb will market this as just 4
4 separate units.
units.
The only other thing we thought about doing was the duplexes as kind of a midterm rental for like traveling nurses, that sort of thing. You want us to rent it for a month at a time, furnished apartment.
So,
Through Airbnb, but again, that'd be the same cap.
not anticipating there to be all of them rented to the same people at one time, but I guess it is possible that Airbnb could say, well, I have a group that wants to rent all 4 units. That would be at your discretion, correct?
Yeah, I don't think that the interface works that way.
Okay.
I've never seen it that way, but again, I've never seen property like this.
Yeah,
You
So I
can,
don't
you
think
can
so.
look, try and target more closely adjacent properties.
yeah,
Now,
you could say,
typically
I have a group
that's-
coming to town, I wanna look at Airbnbs in Kerrville, and I wanna look at 4 units as close as possible to each other. I'm just,
Sure.
you know, my question would be that is not their decision, that is your decision, correct?
About what
Or
they're
do they
renting.
have, can they rent all 4 of them to one group?
I haven't seen that ability. When I rent, I can see it's Kerrville and like a general area, but not addresses. I haven't been able to see addresses when I do the rental.
Okay.
So
And
if I'm not
we still
mistaken,
have the noise complaints that we have, that they sign, and they can't be at, I forget if it's 9 or 10 o'clock.
Okay.
But they may not be loud outside of the buildings after that time.
so it would actually have to be 4 separate customer accounts logging on to 4 separate building, rental accounts, and know the property well enough to know they're in the right spot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I mean, let's say that I'm bringing, let's say I'm doing a family reunion and I'm bringing 30 or 40 of my family, or 25 of my family members, and I'm
Right.
talking to Airbnb and I'm saying, I'd like to rent 3 or 4 places that are as close as possible to each other, cause I can bring my whole family in here. And Airbnb comes up and says, well, hell, I've got 4 right here that are all in the same complex. They all have the same address. I assume they all have the same address, correct?
Yeah, just like, that's.
So that is,
I don't think Airbnb has that interface for the customer
Yeah.
to request, no, that's true, but to request multiples without doing separate transactions.
well, I mean, it doesn't matter the separate transaction. I can do all 4 of them myself.
Right.
They can be 4 separate transactions. I can give them 4 deposits. It's me. My question would be can Airbnb rent them? I don't know. I don't do Airbnb, so I don't know what your contract is with them. Do they find someone and have the ability to rent them without your permission? Just,
No, they can request, but we get a final.
there you go. That's what I want to know. Okay, then I'm fine with it. I believe you guys are responsible, so,
And it's really more customer directly to owner.
Yeah.
Airbnb is just the interface.
Okay.
There's no real third, it's not like using the motel.
I'm comfortable if we put a caveat in there of a maximum of 28. Is that what you said, Shane?
Sure.
And of course, subject to the parking being satisfactory to the city. I'm okay with that. Does anyone have anything else?
Is the gravel a sufficient parking?
I think the
space?
gravel is fine as long as it's sufficient, there's not grass in there, and,
Yeah, it needs to be cleaned up.
yeah. But it's really, that's not me, that's Drew.
And I've walked the property with Mr. Kent and kind of walked through seeing where they're gonna get those parking spaces, cause I had the same question.
Any other comments, any other concerns, guys? I would say we need a motion to approve this subject to a maximum of 28 occupants and satisfactory parking.
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion? Have a second? All in favor? All right, this is approved. So we'll go on, we've got 3B, which is a conditional use permit for a short-term rental at 205 Westminster Street. I have a few concerns about it, but Drew says that the owners are not going to be here, and there's a possibility. Did y'all go look at this?
I did.
Have any issues?
I did not, I'm sorry.
I mean,
Mr. Siegman, normally staff would go ahead and present a case
okay,
for the commission, even though the applicant's not here. I would just say if there are any concerns through that dialogue, that that you obviously have the opportunity to continue it to let the owner kind of have their discussion and presentation as well.
well, so we'll open and close the public hearing because no one's gonna
I
be
can give a
here.
quick presentation just
Okay.
so we're
Go
familiar
ahead.
with the case and go from there. This is conditional use permit, or a resolution to allow a conditional use permit for a short-term rental on lot 34, part of lot 34 and lot 35, block 106, Westminster 1, more commonly known as 205 Westminster Street. This does back up to Shriner University. one block, or that first block off East Main. And this is the blue flag at the lower portion of the map. There's a CUP that was approved around the corner, and then two grandfathered ones closer to G Street and the river. And there's the one on Rosslyn that was approved just a few months ago. Here's the site plan showing that they've got a long driveway down the side of the property to a garage in the back. So the property line is about 130 feet to the rear of the garage. So obviously there would be room to get 5 cars in a row. I don't know about width or condition of the pavement, but we'd certainly look at that on an inspection basis after the approval for the 2-bedroom. Being 2 bedrooms, they're only required 3 parking spaces. So they're showing that they exceed that. Like I said, you can open the public hearing, we can start dialogue, and if we need to continue and hear from the owners, we certainly can, or if you're comfortable, we can move forward.
Dave?
I think we ought to hear from the owners.
I do too,
Okay.
because if there's questions, do we need to open the public hearing even though there's,
Is there a reason to open the public hearing?
No, if you can postpone it till next time.
since we're gonna postpone the consideration, let's postpone the public hearing, put it on the schedule for whenever you can get it in there.
Yep, we'll contact the owners and let them know.
Staff report?
Next meeting is December 2nd. Bring a snack.
Bring a snack? That doesn't sound good. I won't be there for that one, David, you'll be in charge.
Wait.
We have now, with this one, 11 items for discussion.
Sounds like a full dinner to me, not a snack.
Actually, sounds like,
See what I can arrange.
it sounds like you guys should bring us a snack.
Snack and some water and, yeah.
I'll see what we can arrange for some snacks and beverages.
What are we considering?
Got it. 5, well, this would be 6 short-term rentals.
Well, the word's out, isn't it?
2 zone changes, bringing back the code review. Follow-up from the meeting on the 21st. What am I missing?
Zoning change from RT to PI for First Baptist.
That's right.
Cool.
Rezoning one of the churches for First Baptist Church. One more zone change, and 2 annexations.
Thanks.
So,
All hands on deck, boys.
Shane, can you get a day off? Can you come back?
I don't get a vacation.
That Musk guy's tough.
What kind of boss is that?
Crazy, I guess.
so we'll get that out to you guys, hopefully a little earlier, get the packet out to you, and there'll be a lot to chew on, so. Good things coming in to wrap up 2021.
Anybody have anything for future agendas? We're making progress on our signs, postings?
Trying to get the zoning code stuff first,
Okay.
then we'll get back on track to the sign code stuff. Meeting with Mr. Hayes next week to
Okay.
wrap up the zoning, and like I said, we'll move on to the next target.
Well, you hear that? Meeting with Mr. Hayes.
Oh, I need one of those too.
All righty, if there's not anything else, then we will be adjourned.